Right now, the average American worker is effectively paying a 15% hidden tax on their existence every single year, not to fund their retirement or their kids' education, but to subsidize a global arms race that has quietly hijacked your grocery bill. You think you're fighting inflation, but the truth is much darker. You are living in a shadow war economy where the price of a gallon of milk is being dictated by the cost of a long-range missile. This isn't about politics or who is in office. It's about a structural shift in the global financial plumbing that makes your traditional, safe budget a suicide mission for your wealth. We've been told for decades that defense spending is just a line item in a government ledger, but what if I told you that every time a factory overseas switches from making microchips for cars to making guidance systems for shells, your personal purchasing power is the first casualty? Are you wondering why your $100,000 salary feels like $60,000 despite your spreadsheets and your coupons? Are you realizing that the harder you work, the further the finish line moves? Here's the thing, the rules of the game just changed, and if you're still using a peacetime budget in a wartime reality, you're not just losing ground, you're being liquidated. Look, it starts with a feeling we've all had lately. You're standing in the aisle at the grocery store, looking at a box of cereal that was $4 2 years ago and is now $7.50, and you're doing the mental math. You check your banking app, see that you actually saved more this month than last year, yet your available balance feels thinner. It's that nagging sense of cognitive dissonance where the official numbers tell you things are fine, but your bank account is screaming that something is fundamentally broken. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time thinking about the intersection of macroeconomics and personal cash flow. If you're someone who is tired of following all the right financial advice only to feel like you're falling behind, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now, let's get into the why behind that grocery store sticker shock. Most people think inflation is just printing money, but in a war economy, it's actually a massive reallocation of physical stuff. Think of it like this: the global economy is a giant pizza. Usually, that pizza is sliced up for consumer goods, phones, cars, houses. But when the world shifts into a war footing, the government takes half the pizza to build tanks. The remaining half of the pizza has to serve the same number of hungry people, so the price of every single slice doubles. This is where it gets really interesting, and where most people get it wrong. You might be thinking, Alex, I'm not buying tanks, so why does this affect my budget? Here's what most people don't realize: war is the ultimate consumer. A missile doesn't build a house, it doesn't transport food, and it doesn't teach a child. It is a product designed to be destroyed. When we shift our global manufacturing toward destruction-based assets, we are intentionally creating a shortage of life-based assets. This leads us to the "oh my God" moment that changed how I look at my own portfolio. Most of us are taught that during times of global instability, cash is king. We've been told to hoard liquidity and wait for the storm to pass. But here is the counterintuitive truth: in a war economy, your cash isn't a shield, it's a melting ice cube specifically designed to fund the conflict. Governments cannot tax you enough to pay for modern warfare without causing a revolt, so they use financial repression. They keep interest rates lower than the actual rate of inflation, effectively stealing 5% to 7% of your purchasing power every year to pay off their own war debts. Your safe, high-yield savings account is actually a voluntary donation to the military-industrial complex. You are literally paying for the privilege of losing money. Let's look at the math, because the math never lies. Imagine you have $50,000 in a safe account earning 4%. Sounds okay, right? But if the war-weighted inflation, the stuff you actually buy like energy, food, and metal-based goods, is running at 9%, you aren't making $2,000. You are losing $2,500 in real-world value every single year. Over a decade, that safe decision wipes out nearly a third of your life's work. This is the psychological driver that no one talks about. When people feel their money melting, they stop making long-term investments and start panic buying. This is why you see people buying $70,000 trucks they can't afford or over-leveraging on luxury goods. Subconsciously, their brain knows the paper money is dying, so they trade it for stuff. But that's a trap, too. So, how do we rewrite the budget? First, we have to stop budgeting in dollars and start budgeting in hours of energy. In a war economy, the most valuable things are the inputs of war: energy, oil/gas, food, grains/fertilizer, and materials, copper/steel. If your portfolio is 100% in digital bits and paper promises, you are exposed. You need to look at your budget and see where you are short on these things. For example, if you know energy prices are going to stay structurally high because global supply chains are fracturing, a peacetime budget says, spend less on gas. A wartime budget says, invest in a heat pump or a more fuel-efficient vehicle now, even if it feels expensive today, because you are locking in your future energy costs at today's prices. This brings us to the concept of resilience over efficiency. For 30 years, we lived in a world of just-in-time delivery. Everything was cheap because it was made where labor was lowest and shipped across peaceful oceans. That world is over. We are moving to just-in-case economics. This means your personal budget needs a resilience fund that isn't just cash. It's a pantry that's stocked for 6 months. It's tools. It's skills. It's things that have utility regardless of what the Federal Reserve does with interest rates. Look, I know this sounds heavy. It feels like the world is tilting on its axis, and it is. But the people who thrive in these cycles aren't the ones who complain about the price of eggs. They are the ones who understand that the price of eggs is a signal to change their strategy. This is where it gets really powerful. Once you accept that the old rules of 60-40 portfolios and saving for a rainy day are dead, you are free to build a fortress. You start looking at assets that the government can't print: land, commodities, and most importantly, your own ability to produce value in a world that is hungry for real things, not just financial derivatives. The biggest mistake you can make right now is waiting for things to go back to normal. Normal left the building 4 years ago. The war economy is the new baseline. It is a slow-motion transfer of wealth from those who hold paper to those who hold reality. You have to decide which side of transfer you want to be on. Stop looking at your budget as a way to save and start looking at it as a way to deploy. Every dollar you have is a soldier. If you leave them sitting in a bank account, they are being picked off by inflation snipers. If you put them into productive, real-world assets, they are building a wall around your family's future. Here is your immediate action plan. Step 1. Calculate your real inflation rate. Don't look at the CPI, look at your own bills from 2 years ago versus today. That is your hurdle rate. Any investment that isn't beating that number is a losing trade. Step 2. Audit your war vulnerability. How much of your monthly spend is tied to global supply chains that could break tomorrow? Step 3. Shift your mindset from consuming to storing. If you know you will need something in 2 years, and the price is going up 10% a year, buying it now is a guaranteed 10% return on your money. The world is rewriting the rules of money right in front of us. Most people will stay blind to it until their retirement accounts are worth half of what they expected. But you're watching this, which means you're already ahead of the curve. You see the patterns. Now, you just have to have the courage to act on them. Don't let your hard-earned wealth be the fuel for a fire you didn't start. Build your fortress, secure your supply lines, and stop playing a peacetime game in a wartime world. You've got this. Take control of the math, understand the psychology, and you won't just survive this shift, you'll be the one who comes out on top. I'll see you in the next one.